Praise be to the Korean gods of TV entertainment. Hi, my name's Drew and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. Today we are yet again talking about a South Korean TV show. I know by this point I seem like a madman. I'm talking about TV shows from South Korea so often. But if you don't know, if you haven't seen any of my previous videos on the topic, I have just slowly been discovering South Korean TV shows, and they are quite amazing, frankly. They really are. A lot of them are on Netflix, which is good for me as a subscriber. I've talked about quite a few of them in the past. I'll leave a link at the end of this video to two of them. I'll leave a link to Hellbound and Squid Game. By the way, if you were wondering, this t-shirt, this is the logo of Squid Game. So yeah, I'm a big fan of these shows, and I think that Netflix has done a really great thing by, you know, spreading the word on them throughout, well, just throughout the past 2 years at least. I mean, the one we're talking about today, Sweet Home, actually came out in 2020. It had been on my list for quite some time. It sounded rather interesting, and I thought, you know, right, the time is here, I'll just jump into it. So I'm actually quite disappointed in myself that I've been sleeping on it for so long, but at the same time they have just started production on the second series, so at least my wait to get the next one won't be quite so long. Yes, so it's actually better than a few of them I have seen. It's not the best. Currently it doesn't beat Squid Game, but I really like it because it is really quirky and weird. But before I get into details of that nature, let's talk about the plot first. Now, the name Sweet Home sounds very strange, of course. I kind of get what they're going for, but the name doesn't really tell you anything about what the show is. It's actually based on a webtoon, just like Hellbound, for instance. So seemingly in South Korea, they I don't know, either they have a lot of webtoons or it's just something that becomes really popular and just catches the eye of these TV producers or film producers. Because we have a case like this here again. Apparently it started as a webtoon and it was so popular that Netflix grabbed the concept, you know, and said, let's make it a full TV show out of it. I think that's great. If you're a creator of such a webtoon, I mean, that must be amazing to see your work being transported to a TV medium, and actually quite a lot of money pumped into it, like this show. It's definitely not a cheap show. It's got a lot of effects going on in it, which we will discuss a bit later. But yes, I mean, that must be great as a creator, so I feel really happy for them. Also because I think the story is great. Now, if you just saw the blurb or anything and you think this is just going to be like a zombie show, I get that people even maybe have that criticism. I don't think it's fair, but you will feel quite reminded of a zombie show. What happens here is, from one day to the next, let's call it the apocalypse happens, where we don't have zombies, but instead people just start turning into monsters. And that is such a brilliant concept. I love it, because if you like the idea of zombie films or TV shows, but are getting bored of the zombie stuff, because zombies, let's be honest, they're not really that exciting after a time, then I would say this is a show for you, because the monsters that people turn in this show are just completely random and different. So everyone turns into a different monster, which is great. It's really fascinating, and obviously this is a limitless concept. I mean, you could go anywhere with it. We are actually focused on one person for the majority of the story. He's played by Song Kang. His name is Cha Hyun-soo, and he is a 19-year-old, if I'm not mistaken. It actually starts out quite heavy because he is very suicidal. You know, his family, his parents and his sister, they all died in a car crash, and we see him in the very first minutes of this TV show, you know, contemplating whether he should just jump from the roof and stuff. So we start off really at the deep end quite much, and so this show is also about him sort of rediscovering his purpose in life, you know, and finding the will to live, which is obviously a great message. Now, he is in this apartment building, and you know, he just moves in, and then suddenly this apocalypse happens, and people in the building, outside the building, start turning into monsters. And we see a lot of people, so from this apartment complex, they all, you know, come together to try and, well, just make their home safe, you know, their sweet home, keep it sweet. And, you know, they all band together to fight off the monsters and just, yeah, strength in numbers type of thing. You know, just like in a zombie TV show or a zombie film. That's basically what happens, and so we're watching these people from the start with, you know, they're just trying to establish a base where they can sort of be safe, and, you know, and then go through all various struggles, obviously within the group, because you've got a large group of very different people, but also, you know, all sorts of troubles that they face, you know, supplies and how do they go about things. That is more or less what we see. So that is the show, and there's, you know, there's a lot of gathering going on. So they're going through the whole house, the whole apartment building, you know, looking for supplies and obviously other people and various of these things. Now, it doesn't really sound that fascinating in concept, I get that, but again, you know, it is very much like a zombie show, just with the monsters just being a lot more interesting, a lot more deadly as well, because when you think about a typical zombie thing where they're just shuffling about, here you have monsters that could be huge, but in the very least, a lot, and all of them really, are just very, very deadly. So I really like that, because it really lends itself to wackiness, and that is particularly the first 2 or 3 episodes. You know, I was like, this is one of the craziest shows I've seen. It's really wacky. I was telling my brother about it. I said, you know, it's really they tone it down as the show goes on. It becomes more about the people, but I get that they really tried to draw in people just with these crazy monsters that they've got, and I love it because you've got some really tense scenes as well with them and the survival going on, so I really enjoyed that a lot. The survivor group is really interesting because we have, for the majority, they're just very simple people, everyday people that you will know from your life probably, and I find that really interesting. You don't really have a lot of people who are trying to be heroes. They're not kind of invincible and have a lot of plot armor like you have, say, in The Walking Dead or so. So I really like that, and I like the interactions, the discussions that were going on between them, you know, when they're trying to figure stuff out. They also have this typical thing where in the zombie shows you have someone gets infected. You have it here as well because it is also kind of thing that happens to people and there's a trigger for it. I won't spoil it for you. And so you get into these situations as well where people are quarantined and what are we going to do with them? Are we going to exile them? You know, these typical things that you get in these situations in, well, various media. You've got a lot of fabulous actors. I mean, Song Kang, the main actor, the main character, Cha Hyun-soo, I really loved him. I thought he was great. He's a very likeable guy. You know, he, as I said, he starts out being very suicidal, but you know, it's just a character who's just been, yeah, trod on a lot in his life. So obviously he's lost all his family, but there's other stuff as well. He was bullied and you see all that coming out, but he still is a very nice person, you know, he still tries to be nice and do the right stuff and that. So he's a very likeable character. You've got other standout people as well. You've got Lee Jin-wook, who plays a sort of gangster in this. Is a guy who for the first few episodes doesn't even say a single word, I think, or so. But yeah, he's a kind of gangster. He's got a certain purpose in this apartment building, so you know, he's a sort of loner, and he's quite interesting too. You've got Lee Do-hyun. He plays a medical student who sort of takes charge of this group, so he's very cool and collected, and you know, figures out what to do. Very intelligent, making the hard choices, you know, for the greater good, that kind of thing. Really liked him. You've also got great female actors in here. You've got Lee Si-young. She plays a firefighter. She's probably one of the most adept people in the group. So, you know, as a firefighter, obviously very physically trained, and we get to see that. So she's definitely among the better fighters that the group have when they do need to fight. Another actress, her name is Park Gyo-young. She plays a bassist who's in this apartment building. She's more laid-back personality, as I suppose a lot of musicians will be. She's also quite entertaining. She's got a lot of funny lines, etc. And the last person, her name is Kim Sang-ho, because it's great. I've seen quite a few of these shows now, and it's great to see actors that have been in other things before, so I'm starting to recognise people now. We're getting to that stage. He was in Kingdom, which I talked about in a recent short review roundup video. So yeah, it's just great to see these people reappearing. He plays a sort of engineer, a wacky engineer who, well, just develops all sorts of weapons and just other things that the group needs to stay alive. But But yes, you've got a great cast. There's so many more people in it, and yeah, very, very many interesting characters and situations they all get in. So that is obviously, just like with a lot of, sorry for making all these references to zombie things, but yeah, it's just, you know, what you think of. But here also, it's a lot about the people and what they go through and how they treat each other, etc. But coming back to the monsters there, what makes it really interesting for me, now they put a lot of money into this, and the CGI, it's okay. I just felt that the skin on these monsters at times, it just looked a bit very dated, the CGI that they use. But generally speaking, I like the creativity, it's great. I mean, obviously with this concept you could go anywhere, and it's definitely got a lot more CGI in it than I expected, so it does have good production values. Also the apartment building, it reminded me a lot about Dredd, the film, you know, based on Judge Dredd. If you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It's a really great film. I do need to cover it on the channel someday. It's already over 10 years old, which is crazy to think of. But it reminded me a lot of that, you know, so we're moving in these very confined spaces, and that alone makes it very tense. So I also love the lighting, so the show looks great, it feels great. One thing I need to touch upon is the music. Now, this is something that I suppose will also be a more Asian thing, so you'll get this, I suppose, a lot also in Japanese media, not just Korean media. The music they use is very strange. So they use a lot of poppy songs and stuff, very inappropriately sometimes. And they had this fascination. I didn't know the song before. I'm not a fan of Imagine Dragons. I think that's what they're called. They've got this one song, I don't know, is it called Hero even? I can't remember. There's this one song and they keep reusing it in the series. And they do it so often. And it's really strange, you know, you notice it. And then they play it sometimes in scenes that are just so inappropriate, right? They think they're sort of boosting it by, you know, making it more dramatic and stuff, where actually it just doesn't fit the tone, because you have got a very dramatic death of a character we know, for instance, from a few episodes, etc. And then they play this song and it just doesn't go well together. It's so strange. You know, I've seen comments online where people actually talk about this, so it's something that, you know, not just I noticed. Anyway, it's a great show. If you want to see something different from zombies, definitely check this out. It's very original. It's got a second series coming, so it's something that they're continuing to produce. I'm really looking forward to it. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It's the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below on any of the Korean shows or films you have seen. If you've seen this one, let me know what you thought of this. And I'll see you in the next video on Flying Wiener. Take care. Bye.